You're watching the Matt to Matt Show, where we talk about... Excuse me.
Exactly 15 seconds, we'll be on the air.
Where we talk about everything that's important to you. From science and technology to pop culture and social commentary. Featuring your hosts Right Matt, Left Matt, and the disembodied voice of Joe. This is where the conversation begins. Now let's have a chat. Matt to Matt. And we're live. Hey, and welcome to another episode of the Matt to Matt podcast. I am your host, Right Matt. Joining me, as usual, is your host, Left Matt.
It's good, folks. Thanks for coming.
That is not his political leanings, simply his leanings on the screenings. Right now, thank you. Speaking of the voice, joining us in... Oh, he's back in the space station tonight. I didn't realize you were still there. How's your trip been? Good.
It's pretty chill.
How's
Zero
the food?
gravity.
Great. Well, joining us from the International Space Station is the disembodied voice of Joe.
Good evening.
Here on the show, we try to approach all of our subjects with as much objectivity as possible, but we are just three cis white males. So if we fail to do that in any regard, the chat is right there on screen. Do call us out. Let us know from which direction we are not viewing said subjects, and it will help round out this obviously biased discourse in which we are about to partake. All
Brownie
good?
points if it's actually your own opinion, though. And we'd like to talk with people that have those opinions, not just, there might be a dissenting argument out there that I'm going to defend
Yes.
because I don't want to defend my own views.
Please, we need 30 devil's advocates in the chat.
We just want you to be the devil. And
Yes.
No, never mind.
Does somebody know? Somebody tweet the devil at him. Tweet at the devil. Thanks for joining us tonight. I don't know if you guys have been watching social media, but we're just gonna jump right into the discussion of the evening. Thanks so much. I see you guys popping up in the chat. It's always nice to have you. Feel free to give your thoughts about this. You are on screen. You're part
We
of the
haven't said
show.
anything, though, yet.
It's in the title, man. We have titled ourselves out. Today we're going to be talking about the hashtag MeToo campaign,
Right off the bat, huh?
which is right off the bat.
Diving right in.
Diving right in.
I have to say, if I could try to keep it light before we go too hard in,
Oh.
to make you seem even worse by comparison, I had no clue what was going on. I thought I could have sworn I saw like 2 or 3 people post it. And
You
I was like,
thought you could have sworn?
no way. I check Facebook like once every 8 hours, and then there was a cute girl that posted it, and I didn't know what was up, and then I was the only comment, and that looked a bit suspicious to me, so I went after and I reinvestigated, but she, posted me too, and I said same, thinking I was being a smart aleck, and didn't know what I was getting. And then I saw the full explanation, and then I deleted the comment.
Oh, good for you. Good for you. Check yourself.
Graceful.
Yeah, something like that.
Well, I've said other uncouth things and had the person delete it for me. It was like, that's not.
I'll just do you the favor.
Well, no, it was like,
Just stop talking.
Freddie and I are no longer together. No need to make comments about. Well, they did say something. They were pissed off about it, but
Is Freddie and her not together?
that's not the real name. I try to protect identities.
Ah, yes. Oh, hey, Amor Pizza. Nice to see you on the show.
So you're about to tear into the beliefs
So
of
no,
so many people.
I just want to give some background to this. The
PC.
as I'm sure most of you know. Hey, come on.
Their
As I'm
initials
sure-
are even PC. sorry.
Let's see. The Me Too. No, not that one. That's what happens when I keep all my links on my other computer. So the Me Too, hashtag Me Too campaign came out. It's a third party extension from the Harvey Weinstein It's a third-party extension from the Harvey Weinstein scandal. I don't even call it a scandal. His issues that came out, and I think it's upwards of 50-something people have now accused Harvey Weinstein of assault. And one of the actresses had posted this and said, "Hey, if everyone who's ever suffered from sexual assault or rape or what was the other one? Sexual harassment. Post it, just hashtag me too. We can get an idea of the scope of this problem."
Alyssa Milano.
Alyssa Milano, thank you.
Is that it? Is that what you heard?
I believe so. It was either her or the other. There were two that spoke out yesterday, and
yeah. Well, I don't know.
yeah. Suggested. Scroll up for a second. Let me read that.
Alyssa
Suggested.
Milano,
She
she's-
back to where it says suggested by a friend. Go. Yep, there he goes. She tweeted. It says, "Me too." Suggested by a friend. If all the women who have been sexually harassed or assaulted wrote "Me too" as a status, we might give people a sense of the magnitude of the problem.
But only if we just type "me too" and don't give any context or explanation for it. They have to dig out what it means.
Well, let me start there with
Signaling.
Yeah, let me start there with I'm not going to say I have a problem with people saying this and people supporting each other and speaking out and being, counted. I think that's a good thing. I think anytime that if there is a good use of just being able to mass if there's a good use of just being able to spread something like that, this is a great use of that. My contention, and this is the kind of the bone I'll be picking for the next little while, is what she said there. She listed several different things, and then she said this problem. What is the problem she's talking about if she says rape, sexual assault, sexual harassment?
Sounds like
That is-
collusion.
that is all one problem. What is the overarching problem? If you sum that up into a word or a phrase.
Okay, I have two
A
words.
phrase, what?
An unspoken collusion.
Collusion. That's okay. That's more generalized. I'm saying
To me,
I'm saying
it's-
she says
Give me an answer that I want to hear.
She said
You
we
know, you
want to
just
show
sound
people
just like them.
No. Okay. So here's the problem. She says we want to show people the scope of the problem, but then she lists 3 different problems. What is the problem she's talking about?
well,
That
there
all
Not
three of these
examples
things are
of
acceptable.
Examples of what?
disrespecting women.
Disrespecting women, as PewDiePie says, women. He's Swedish. He's loud. So
Mea culpa.
my fault.
Oh, I didn't know that. Habeas corpus. I know Latin too.
Yeah, it means my guilt, really, but it means my fault.
Culpability. Yeah, I should have
You're,
known.
you're culpable. And so where this kind of got off the rails from what I saw, and I'm not nothing I'm saying are blanket statements. My problem are with the blanket statements. There's nothing wrong with participating in this hashtag campaign. The problem is when people take this too far in the direction of, yeah, let's get them. Men are evil. So, which is obviously not everyone. I don't think.
You have to
Hopefully-
dehumanize people before
hopefully,
you can
yeah.
take their tax money.
Well, you have to throw people in the group, and that's kind of what I'm getting at with the Alyssa Milano tweet, where she says, "Let's talk about the problem," and she lists several things. Anyone who's been raped, which is a serious deal. Anybody who's been sexually assaulted, which is also most often a serious deal. We'll talk more about that definition in a second. And sexually harassed, which includes catcalling.
Unwanted looking.
Unwanted looking, actually, check, as somebody on my Facebook quoted, guys who check me out when they think I'm not looking.
What
That
about unrighteous thoughts? Like, what if you
unrighteous
think something
thoughts.
unrighteous?
Well, see, that's my
Can they
question.
punish you for that?
Now, maybe there's a little bit of facetious in what we're saying, but there's also a
Fascism.
confusion. Well, there's also a confusion of there's these women saying hashtag me too. Yeah, I was abused. I was raped. I was assaulted. Something horrible happened to me. And then there's other women going, yeah, I feel you, sister. I was catcalled yesterday by some 50-year-old man on the subway, and it made me feel uncomfortable. And none of the guys around me called him out for it. Therefore, I'm on the same boat as you who was sexually abused. I have a problem being a man who's not allowed to talk about this. The best I can say is I have a problem with disrespecting and not disregarding, but sort of discounting and minimalizing the experiences of women who've gone through way worse by throwing your just you know, I have to say, some of these things are just tiny, tiny things that don't belong on the same bus. Not saying they're right, not saying they should happen. You have the right to speak out and say, hey, stop catcalling me. Creepy men on the subway should all be rounded up and put in a home.
I want to say something.
But I don't think that belongs in the same conversation as a producer got me alone in his room and physically assaulted me when I was 15. Like, those aren't the same thing.
I am left, Matt, so...
Let's hear it.
That's just the introduction for I'm going to say something you might find unpleasant. So what's the point? Where's the line where it's... When does the woman begin to bear responsibility by not speaking against unwanted, non-violent advances?
See,
did that question make sense?
Yeah, phrase it again. Just
okay.
repeat it if you
when
want,
does it
but-
start to be the woman's fault because she's not talking?
When does it start to be the woman's fault? Wow, that's a great way to phrase that.
I'm left, Matt.
Let me just catch this. Let me just catch this comment from.
I'm gonna look this direction.
No, I'm gonna do
now.
that the other way. I'm gonna answer the question.
Is
and then
there
we'll go to
any
more pizza.
blame to be had for a woman if she doesn't speak out against it? Is it zero
What
always?
what do you mean?
Zero?
In
Like-
what kind of circumstance? What are we talking about?
Because maybe the woman might have felt worse if she had to not reprimand, but if she had to brush away like a more physical advance, like somebody try to brush your cheek or like kiss you or something, when you're like, oh, well, there's a misunderstanding. That's not what I really want, but doesn't say anything because it's just, socially acceptable for women to be more meek.
We see, and
these are all
that's
these
a good
are all,
question.
like, the
That's a
stereotypes
very
is
good
what I'm
question
saying.
because
Oh, now it's a good question. The third iteration.
well, saying it properly
first
makes it a good question.
All right.
No, it's a good question because there is a line. I'm not 100% sure where that is, and I might probably disagree with you, who'd probably disagree with specific women who might disagree with each other about where that line is of what you can do without actually specifically asking permission first.
So nothing
Because-
is what we're drawing from this article.
Well, like that's maybe we haven't gone to an article
Oh,
yet.
we do. Have we pulled? Oh, you haven't said it. Oh,
No,
oh, my
no.
bad, my
We're
bad.
still drawing lines here in the sand.
You seen the chat?
No. I'm
This is our
about to
triple
get
secret
there,
secret.
and I promise I will get there, and we will discuss it. That's why we're having this conversation. I just wanted to broach the point that I have never asked for permission before kissing a woman, and I've only ever been rejected once, and that was by my wife before we were married. That's the only time anybody went, nah, no, thank you. But I never asked. So technically, am I assaulting that woman when she goes, no, that's fine, but I didn't ask?
Did you ever kiss a girl and it was a one-time kiss, and then she was like, you know what? I wasn't gonna say no, but really that makes me uncomfortable.
No. I slayed the
Okay,
ladies
okay.
back in my day.
Sure.
No, no, but like, that's my
Alright.
question. What were you saying, Joe?
You mentioned asking. Are you talking about
Verbally.
Verbally, or because there is such a thing as body language, which is supposedly a higher percentage of communication than actual verbal communication?
That now I agree, but that's where it gets tricky. When do you body language? When does that cross the line into she was asking for it? I mean, sure, I kissed her. She looked like she wanted to be kissed. Really? Is that an
That's not what a
excuse?
kiss I mean,
Is that an excuse? Like that's my problem. I feel like in a case by case basis, you can tell, yes, she wants me to kiss her, or yes, she's not into this.
Oh, wait.
Maybe you can't. But that's my problem. There's a weird line there, and that we're creeping really close to that line where you jumped the gun, you misinterpreted. Now that's sexual assault. In the same category.
I think
as rape.
Amor's cleared it up quite
All right,
nicely.
great.
She
Let's
says
go right to the
sexual
chat.
harassment is when advances are made, verbal or physical, I'm guessing. And
Yeah.
the woman makes it clear it isn't wanted, and it continues anyways. So that hurdle.
Wait.
Hey.
Say that again.
As horrible as it sounds, that hurdle has to be overcome for it to be properly classified as sexual assault. Or, sorry, harassment. Amor says sexual or harassment is when advances are made. The woman makes it clear it isn't, or the person, doesn't have to be a woman, right? But the woman makes it clear it isn't wanted, and it continues anyways. So there has to be the
Yes.
light of
Harassing the person.
right.
Continued accosting the person. There's a better word there. I couldn't find it. As a woman, worst things as a woman. When you hear those unwanted nonviolent advances, it is a red flag for worse things because it can go there so quickly. It leads to living in fear because, Eckerd, from a guy's perspective, let's see. From a guy's perspective, as unromantic as it sounds, you are insane if you think it's worth the liability to not ask before practicing any physical contact and re-asking with advances. Wait, did I read that right? From a guy's perspective, as unromantic as it sounds, you are insane if you think it's worth the liability to not ask before practically any physical contact and re-asking with advances. Huh, I disagree with that. I mean, like, you're right. It is it sounds very unromantic, and if you want to, you can. But I don't think maybe it is these days, maybe these crazy kids. I don't think it's the expectation of women for them to go, you didn't ask. Yes, I wanted you to kiss me, but like you never asked.
Did you
see
that?
There's that
movie
moment
with,
where it just culminates in she's looking at you and she's asking you and you kiss her. Like this is devolved way down into kissing, but this is why we're having this
What about
discussion.
hand holding? Why can't we talk about hand holding?
That's a good question.
You know?
I'll never forget the look on my wife's face when we were on our like third or fourth date or whatever, and I just grabbed her hand and she looked at me like, "Oh, well, that was forward, but I liked it." Kind of like it was a.
Did she say that? Did she let you know verbally? There was no.
She's a woman. They
explicit-
don't let you know verbally anything.
Whoa,
I'm just kidding.
whoa.
I'm kidding. What were you saying, Joe?
That movie. I think it's called Hitch.
Yeah.
Hitch?
What about Hitch?
You remember that one where he's like that one scene where he's like telling him you go like a
You go
certain
90%
percent of the way.
they go 10%.
Yes,
Was it
and then
90-10?
yeah,
90-10? Yeah.
So I mean,
Exactly.
I know that's not an obvious like.
But
There's
but you see,
different ways to
that may not be a hard and
decide.
fast rule,
Yeah.
but that's a good idea.
That's the
Can I ask
idea.
Chad
That's a
something?
good idea.
I
Let's
want to
hear
ask Chad something in general, in
Chad.
dating and wooing and the like.
Mm-hmm.
Do men or women make more risks to like let their intentions
Take
be
more
known?
risks.
What I say?
Make.
Make more risks. Take more.
Okay,
risks.
I'm just
take more
clarifying.
risks. Yeah. In general, do they, and is it more or less acceptable for one gender to take more risks to let the other person know they're willing to go out of their way to spend time with them, etc. Spend money on them. Oh, I don't know. There's one thing I think about.
I'm not the comment section, but I think
Nope,
it could
not the
be
comments.
either.
All right, what do you got?
Either or. I think the biggest problem is selfishness. So,
You can't
I
see, but he's
think the
gesturing.
idea is to come, like, to go in with the idea of what is the other person thinking? Are they happy? Which is the right attitude to have, and I think. Does that answer? Does that?
It does. It
You want
does.
me to elaborate
I can agree.
further?
I can agree with that.
I would like further elaboration.
Okay. Ask me a question too.
Okay, I just want to point out
Whoa.
there are
Ask
eight
me a specific
there are
question.
8
what direction
people
you want me to
watching. Please jump in the chat if you can. We need as many opinions on this as possible. We want to shut as many people down as no. We want a lot of voices in this conversation. That's why we're here. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
Oh, you
cut you
you
off.
asked about catcalls.
Yes.
I'm thinking like you can make an analogy with instead of rape, you can make an analogy with murder, and then you can like what's analogous to a catcall with murder? Be like, I'm going to kill you, or like some
Never heard
weird.
a
Can you
catcall
think
like
of?
that.
Can you
So what
think
you're
of a
saying
weird-
is, so what you're saying is, if every person who's ever been murdered, shot, stabbed, punched in the face, or threatened with a finger in their face, texted or hashtag me too.
You just did a wood hyperbole.
We
You
would
used the word
not-
every. If every person who'd ever been killed.
No, that's what, if every woman. I'm quoting her, but I'm changing words. If every woman who'd ever been raped, sexually assaulted, or sexually harassed, hashtag me too, we get the size of the problem. Is that like saying if every person who was ever killed, punched in the face, stabbed with a knife, or wagged an angry finger at, hashtag me too, we get the scope of the problem. The problem being violence in general, which kind of minimizes murder and stabbing people in the face, and kind of aggrandizes somebody wagging an angry finger at you and being like, "I'm a victim of
I think
violence."
it's an opinion
Like-
if you say it minimizes, because violence can lead to murder.
Yes, but are murder and violence violence can lead to murder?
No, we're
yes.
not. We're not equating them.
Angry finger wagging.
But I
can-
mean,
can lead
let's
to
say,
murder.
Let's say if there's people around who are let's say to one of my friends, to say I'm going to kill you, and I just like sit down and they're like, hey, can you help me? Like I just like say, like, I don't really do much about it. Like, I think that's the kind of problem that article, you know, that article that you shared. That's the
that one.
That's the kind of problem that person had an issue with.
I think this is going
Gotcha.
about as well as we'd expected.
I was
Maybe
gonna say-
time to change gears.
What? I wasn't following the chat.
Yeah, we got some input here.
Sweet. Can you let's see, have human population been threatened murder on a daily basis? Then yes, that comparison could be made.
More smart.
Was that over the edge?
Of course
I'm
it
sorry,
was.
the beggar hero. Smarter. That's all I'm
Marginalized
saying.
and degraded. See, this is what I'm talking about. Thank you for your quotes. Anna Benner, women have been a long history of being marginalized and denigrated, which is why this is a big issue. Comparing sexual harassment to other crimes is frankly apples and oranges. Thank you. That's why I wasn't saying they're comparative. I was asking if they were. Amor Pizza, if half the human population was being threatened murder on a daily basis, then yes, that comparison could be made. You see, that's my question, is people who are catcalled, is that on the same level as rape?
On the same level.
Because are half
as
the people, well,
in-
because are half the, okay, we're using two scales here, and I'm just drawing this out again. Murder, stabbing, angry words, finger wagging, rape, sexual advances, harassment, catcalling. Are these all on the same level, but these aren't, is my question.
you're comparing angry words to "I'm going to kill you." That's threatening words.
No, that's what I mean. Sorry, threatening words. Threatening words.
Yeah.
But like, see, this is where it breaks down a bit for me with drawing all this into the same pot. Well, half the human population on a daily basis is being threatened with rape. Sounds like the comment that was just implied. Am I inferring incorrectly from that comment? I'm trying to communicate well.
Well,
The actual murder of the population actually happened extremely frequently. Legally, no. Wait, legally, no. What are we looking at? Oh, he's answering my question. Thank you. You have to understand the legal definition of various degrees of sexual assault / harassment. There's different legal definition depending on the severity of the crime. Yes. Got it. Cool. All right. So technically, legally, these are not on the same category. And I'm not saying you're not allowed to hashtag Me Too if you haven't been such bad treatment and there isn't a line there. I'm saying it kind of it muddies the waters when I see people saying hashtag Me Too to all the guys who checked me out when they thought I wasn't looking. Like I think that's going a bit too far in the oppression Olympics of me too. I've had things. I mean, like I wasn't actually assaulted. I mean, if that's the problem. maybe you were. I'm not here to judge. I'm just saying when you specifically call out small things and try and put them in the same category as important big things, it kind of makes the cause a bit watered down. Amor Pizza, there's actually a chart for all this. Looks like the food pyramid. I'm not going to make a daily values joke. I'll just imply one. I don't agree. It brings attention to an issue which can bring about legal changes in the industry which otherwise wouldn't occur. See, that's if you're talking about
why legal per se? If it's Hollywood, why not just changes? What I mean, why would it have to be
well,
legal?
are we talking
So you
about
can't
Hollywood?
force it.
Because everyone I saw post about it was not part of Hollywood and was not talking about things that had anything to do with the Harvey Weinstein case. The only
I'm
thing
just going off Adam Benner's.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I'm talking about this hashtag campaign. But people are talking about things that happened in their daily lives that were on a very different scale than people who were, accosted for their career. Yes, some people take it too far, but that doesn't mean the overall thing isn't a problem. Absolutely. Some people do take it too far. That doesn't mean the overall thing isn't a problem. What's the overall thing?
This makes me think about a review of. No, I'm going to speak out of my depth. What were you going to say?
Review of what? Let's hear it. Out of your depth.
Well, it's just. I mean, I'm going to embarrass myself without having the specifics, but there are issues with the way it's reported as well. I remember there was an instance of sexual assault numbers changing from college students when they reported that Like they would report that they were attracted to someone and willingly got into bed with somebody, but then the next day changed their minds about it and were no longer glad that they had slept with somebody the night before, then that was considered sexual abuse or sexual, assault. And that, I mean, that definition. So the definitions are really important to get straight before you start having the conversation, because definitions kind of underpin the whole conversation. So if sexual assault could be defined as something like that, where you felt sorry for one of your own decisions the night before, then I don't agree. That's not sexual assault.
Gotcha. Okay, and I can see your point there, and the only problem that I have with doing that, there's nothing wrong with calling attention to all of the terrible things that happen to women regarding misogyny and sexual misconduct of men or other women, however that boat floats.
The men can be raped.
Yeah,
But no, that's not. No, I'm
This
talking
doesn't
about women,
happen,
other women. We're talking about the problems that happen to women. Come on now.
Right.
Some people take it too far. Says Amor Pizza. Let's just go real quick to an article, and the only reason I want to go here is because people I know, and like not just online, people I know particularly. I'm not going to say who, but shared this article, and it's a little crass. So I'm just going to warn you. There's some language in here. We're not going to read the whole thing.
Who wrote it? What's her last name? Natalie what?
I can't read it from here.
DeGraffenride.
And it kind of epitomizes the taking it too far, like you just said. When people take advantage of this becoming a national conversation to discuss to just denigrate men in general. So like I said, this was shared by people I know in real life whose opinions I trust and appreciate and respected. But let's have a look at it real quick, and I'll show you what I mean. It is called "I Have Been Raped by Far Nicer Men Than You." It's by Natalie DeGraffenride. How did we decide that was pronounced?
Get on with it.
Yep. Get on with it. So she starts by making a couple of anecdotes about her personal experience. The guy was following her on a train. Creepy guy. If you've ever been in New York City and been on a train, they put creepy guys on every train. It's like a quota or something. They're there. He started smiling, making kissy faces. Your typical horrible thing that people do in big cities like that. I pointedly tried to ignore him as my discomfort grew. Then there were many people on the train. Stopped coming up. Let's see. The nearest person was a younger black man who happened to be black. I looked at him, my expression tense. He just smiled and shook his head. What terrible behavior, he seemed to be saying. But I'm not doing anything
He seemed
about it.
to be saying. Did he say that?
He seemed to be saying.
Makes me think about not just sexism, but any kind of ism is defended a lot by this version of an argument that, well, they didn't say it, but it was obvious what they meant. Sorry, go on.
Let's see. Eventually, man followed me off the train at my stop. It was late enough. There weren't enough people in the station, but I luckily saw a couple walking in front of me, a white woman and a black man. I approached them with a big, forced smile and quietly asked if I could pretend I knew them because I was being followed. Smart move. The black man looked confused. The white woman immediately understood, gave me a big hug, and acted like we were old friends. The man stopped following me. It is not often that I'll take the side of a white woman in a conversation about black men versus white women in the oppression Olympics. Funny way to state that. I often fall inside of both y'all are acting like trash, to be honest. Thank you for being honest. But in this case, I couldn't help thinking, come on, black men. Let's pause there for a minute. Like I said, I normally would just sort of reject this article and be like, somebody with their crazy opinions. I don't care. But a lot of people I saw were liking and commenting positive things on this article, specifically women saying, this is exactly what I've always wanted to say. Thank you so much for sharing this.
We'll put a link to it in the show notes.
Yeah, we'll do that. But she just goes on to take this too far and to start denigrating men. And we will show you a bit of what I mean. Let's see.
It's a wordy article.
Frequency, yes, it's very wordy. Thank you. There's a quote in here. Women are never taken for their word at the warning stage. It's only when sexism bursts out in grand form that men will listen and take action. That seems like a bit of an overstatement. Not saying it never happens, but it's only when sexism bursts out in grand form that men will listen and take action because they have to. What is the implication in that?
Isn't it true that these women got favors that other women didn't get? Like they were favored because of this sexism?
Wait, we're talking about
Harvey
Weinstein.
Weinstein.
Okay, okay.
Weinstein, the women whose careers he, helped along. Like, are they saying that it's sexist because all the other women in the world didn't have this opportunity to jumpstart their career?
I don't think that's what they mean.
Oh, my bad.
I don't think that's what they mean.
Well, it is pretty sexist, but I agree with her in that way.
But the implication, correct me if I'm wrong, the implication of men will listen and take action because they have to implies that they don't ever want to, and if they weren't made to, men would never stand up for women.
That's worked, pretty well evolutionarily.
Does that sound like I'm misunderstanding? Because I honestly am trying hard to understand, but it seems like this article makes some pretty broad statements. So let me know in the chat if you think I'm misinterpreting her words. I'm tired. Let's see. Men are able to continue to behave this way because of other men, but I'm tired of letting the nice guys off the hook because you're making it harder too. It's always exhausting when I see men become suddenly terrified of having their lives ruined by an errant accusation of sexual assault. Wow, I think. How terrible to be hyper-vigilant and live in fear that actions not under your control could ruin or end your life. Then I roll my eyes so hard I can see the ghost of my pre-natural new growth. So, let's see. Well, stark differences, the way racism and sexism operate. I can never ignore the linguistic parallels, the way power operates across communities. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like these are just broad, putting people into boxes and categories, and then condemning or redeeming people based on their fitting into or not fitting into these categories, which is by definition prejudice.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a bit prejudiced, but that's probably what the author's experience has been.
There's nothing worse than being accused of perpetrating this horrible life-changing act. It says even actually being a victim of the act is what always goes unspoken, implying false accusation is worse than actually being victimized. I certainly would never imply that intentionally. Let's see. Lying. Let's see. Where does she talk about the nice guy trope?
You may have passed.
Oh, I missed it. My biggest problem was the you,
like
and you'll have to help me.
5 paragraphs above the one with nice guys off the hook.
I'm just gonna free scroll here.
Can he control F?
Follow the chat. Probably. There it is. Let's see. There's implication that the person in question is not the perpetrator of sexism himself. Talking about people who just let these things go. That very well may be true. It is probably not, since everyone of every gender has been forced assist normative patriarchal values, buzzwords, to the point where sexism is ingrained in our daily, everybody's in the chat, in our daily lives and language. Here's the part I wanted to talk about. And since it's probably not true, then we need to acknowledge that the good guy trope is BS, and that men need to take accountability for their part, always bigger than they think, in keeping rape culture alive. Not only is it extremely effing lazy to only check for sexism when it's in your own backyards, but it's devastating and harmful to pretend that it's not in your own backyard when it clearly is. So essentially, and Joe, let me know if I've got this right this time. She's saying just because you're a good guy doesn't mean that you don't live in a sexist world and you just let it all go. Is that the nice guy trope being BS and not taking accountability for your part she's talking about? Let me know in the chat, guys.
I mean,
not only is it lazy to only check for sexism when it's in our own backyards, but it's devastatingly harmful to pretend that it's not in our own backyards when it clearly is.
Yeah, this is, I think, you know that quote, for evil to succeed, they only need for good men to do nothing.
I have
I think
heard
that
quote.
is the biggest voice of this article. She's sick of people just because if you're a nice guy, you know, you're decent, you don't particularly accost or sexually harass with women.
Particularly?
Like, I mean, as far as you know, right? You could
As far as you know.
may have done something by accident, like the whole kissing thing we were talking about.
That's
But,
not an accident. Like, that was clearly not an accident. You can on accident.
I didn't say the kiss was accidental.
Oh.
I'm just saying whether like if you're misreading somebody. Anyway, that's besides the point.
Okay.
Okay, so
Yeah, I forgot the point I was making. Sorry.
Oh, dang it.
good job. No, I just wanted to bring out, like I said, my problem is this broad, sweeping statements that are made. Let me tell you a story real quick. I saw this hashtag trending, and I saw a lot of my female friends sharing their experiences, not sharing, just saying hashtag me too. And it does sort of open your eyes to how broad this problem being, from anything that women have to deal with of misconduct of men to serious violent assault, felonies being committed against them. And then I realized that technically, and it's not even like technically, it's literally, I could share the exact same thing. I have a story I came to mind. Oh, hashtag me too. To the girls who thought it was perfectly acceptable just because I was wearing tight jeans and singing to everyone to openly fondle me in front of an entire room full of people and then laugh about it because you're drunk and you're women and I'm a man, hashtag me too, that's not okay. But I didn't want to share that story because it still feels like it's coming across as trying to minimalize what happens to women in a way of like oppression Olympics, like, oh yeah, well you think you've got it bad. Try being a guy who was groped in front of while you're performing on stage in a group of people, and then afterward the female bartender you went up to and she's like, how'd it go? Well, crazy girls were grabbing my junk while I was on stage and they thought it was funny, and she went, ha, lucky guy. And I'm like, imagine if I was a woman and said that, and the guy behind the counter was just like, hey, lucky woman, a guy was feeling you up in front of the entire room and laughing about it. Like, and I'm not a victim. I'm not saying I am. I would not hashtag me too because I don't really feel like that is on the same level as people being violently abused. But at the same time, it's devastating and harmful to pretend that it's not in our own backyards when it clearly is. How devastating and harmful is it for women to pretend this is a male-only perpetrated issue and that women don't play a part in this?
What do you think?
And like I said, that sounds like you, and it's not. I'm just saying this is if we're going to open this up from people in the Hollywood industry who were forced, had ugly old men, doesn't matter what they look like, but men, people forced on them because they felt entitled because they were rich men, all the way down to women feeling uncomfortable with things men are doing. Are we gonna do we also include guys who were fondled while they were singing at a bar because women were drunk and thought it was funny? Like I'm not saying
we should
we don't.
find the guy and ask him.
Do
you
we?
know?
Do you? Would it be appropriate if I shared that? Because I felt like it was. I felt uncomfortable. The thought came to my mind, and I felt uncomfortable. I didn't want to come out. It sounds so like it's cliche, but like I didn't feel like I would be taken seriously, sharing that with anybody. Like I'd just be like, me. But
I mean, it does sound like it could be.
is anybody following the
included,
chat?
but that
I've
sounds
completely lost it.
Yeah, I've
Do my best
looking
to
at
keep track
It just
of both.
sounds like it's a fringe, like a fringe story. Like,
Well, it
we
happened to me
have-
several
we
times.
don't have huge.
I don't know how other guys,
Like
any other
as,
guys. It happens
as a
to.
guy, I don't like. I can't really even think of a time where I've had to worry about sexual harassment. Maybe like once in public school, once or twice. Yeah. one was a guy and one was a girl.
Mm-hmm.
So other than that, like this is like a world I'm almost completely blind to. I don't really. Yeah, if someone like said, "Hey, good looking," down on the street, like I wouldn't even. it wouldn't even faze me.
Honestly,
But
how would you feel about that?
I don't have that fear that
No, of
that,
course.
you know, of creeps.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Like
So-
there is a difference. And I'm not trying to say there's not a difference. I'm actually trying to say there is a difference. There's a big difference. And we're sweeping way too many things into a single category.
I do understand like your point in you're saying it kind of minimizes or it muddies the water, as you said, the whole Me Too thing when you include like when you include verbal sexual harassment versus like atrocious things that have happened to you.
Mm-hmm.
But it does, I think the point of the Me Too thing is to spread awareness, so that'd be more people saying Me Too, and there'd be more solidarity. Maybe, you know, we're not saying, like, I don't think the Me Too thing is saying that, you know, if you've experienced something like someone catcalling you, is the same, like, is just as bad, but it's saying that's still not right,
Mhm.
and that's disrespecting women. So,
Mm-hmm. And I think the complicated part is that a lot of people, and I don't blame them for doing this, but just replied #MeToo, and like that was it, which could be anything. And so, not that we're taking a poll and we're taking specific numbers and you're skewing our data, dang it, but it's like I said, it's just so broad sweeping, it starts to get diluted. Wow, there's so much chat. I want to just go over all of this. Did you
Can't do it.
Did you grab something interesting?
Started Eckerd.
Eckerd saying what?
Let's
Treat
see,
men?
I really do
The one
hate
before
the
that.
attitude. It's like if the girl thinks she's sexually attractive, any guy wants whatever attention she can give. Is disgusting, but not as soul crushing as most abused women. Amor said, saying that makes me uncomfortable. Please stop. Can and does create a more dangerous situation if the female's ever left alone with that man after the standing up for myself moment. Not saying that is always the case, but it happens a lot. And then she also saying like her experience with sexual harassment 7 and up, and she's experienced it a lot, and so has most of her girlfriends.
So what can we do to improve ourselves?
What can we do?
Would
Someone actually shared something on Facebook.
yeah.
A list of things.
I'm curious, like what the most common things there are, so that I could look out for it in my own, behavioral patterns.
Some concrete ways that men can help. Is that what we're looking for?
Yeah, that sounds like a great title. I'd read that.
Yeah, they're actually.
Okay, sorry, just real quick to the chat. Amor Pizza. She says there's the same thing that happens to guys from women, but it isn't accepted as normal. Do you mean it doesn't happen very often, or it isn't acceptable? Normal being like it doesn't happen very often, or do you mean it's not normal as in people don't find that acceptable? Because no, it doesn't happen as often, but it's certainly as far as I can tell, it's usually treated as, oh, well, why would you complain? You're a guy. She's a girl. Don't you always want everything a girl has to offer? So the idea of a woman physically, I'm trying to phrase this carefully, but making unwanted advancements on a man may not be typical, may not be very typical, but it certainly is normalized as not a problem.
So do women just want less things from men than men want from women? And so
Maybe.
like, okay,
I don't.
it's interesting.
Good questions. Sorry, I did cut you off to say that. Were you?
Yeah, there's some good points in this thing. It's actually pretty lengthy. It's got a list of like 14 things, but I'll just name a couple. For instance, the standing up thing. I mean, it doesn't have to be like I'm a white knight in shining armor, like we were talking about earlier.
Don't want to be white
but
knighting.
it can be. It said practice these phrases like that's not cool or that's a terrible thing to say. Stuff like that. If you know what you're going to say in advance, it makes it. At least for me, it makes it easier if so you don't the moment doesn't pass you by while you're thinking about what's the correct thing to say, because that's me. I freeze up while I'm trying to think about. how to best handle the situation. Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt, but Matt had his interruption, so I won't mind, and
Go
then
for
I'll
it.
give you it all the time, Joe. But is it accurate that before we proceed on this list, that this list would be appropriate for anyone making inappropriate comments about someone, regardless of their gender?
Yeah,
But that this is tailored.
most likely, but this is tailored
Okay,
towards towards women.
Okay, all right.
Towards women.
Men standing up for women.
Dude,
Gotcha.
you're not Swedish. I don't get it.
The other thing says follow some feminist writers on social media, and just to get a different perspective, they have some stuff they may write. Some stuff they write may seem exhausting or too angry. Put aside that discomfort. They mention male privilege, allowing you to disengage from an important conversation that women don't get to disengage from. But yeah, just open. I think that's what we're doing right now, is trying to broaden our perspective and horizon. 3, boost female voices. When there's an issue, write stuff about it. Yeah, take a minute, try and find. It says try and find an article written by a woman. This is geared towards defending and respecting women, so that would be why. But if you're going to apply it to other situations, try and find an article written by a person who has more experience in these things. And there's several other things. I can actually it's just a list on Facebook. I don't even know if it's an article, but one thing that that caught my attention, number 6, says at work or out in the world, don't call female colleagues or strangers cutesy diminutive names like honey, baby, darling, kiddo, young lady, sweetheart, girl, or dear, etc. And I've noticed girls that I've worked with, they hate when people just randomly come up and call them love or darling or sweet or whatever. People that they don't know and aren't
which
there's no romantic interest.
Which is interesting because this demonstrates the difference that when I'm at the grocery store and some lady's like, "Hey, sweetie, you dropped your wallet," that doesn't even ring in my head is how dare you call me sweet? Because it's a different thing.
And I'm not saying that people who use those terms are meaning it in a disrespectful way. But unfortunately, to borrow your term, those terms have been muddied with.
What should you say? I'm gonna pull the chat.
Oh,
all the women in the chat. What should you call a person you don't know?
This is a subtle way of putting them down, elevating your own status over them. That's how some people can see it. Or as a man who's choosing to vote them as attractive and reminding them and all present that they're just cute little ladies that nobody should listen to. At work, make a special effort to speak to women using the kind of person-to-person, respectful address you use when speaking with male colleagues, such as their name. If you slip up and call your colleague young lady or something like that, it's cool to say something about it like, "I'm sorry, I called you that. It's disrespectful."
So I used to say ma'am because I worked at a bank and that's what you call everybody no matter what age. A girl walked in, you say ma'am, but I realized talking to people socially, if you don't know them and you're trying to get someone's attention, and you're like ma'am, younger women get kind of frustrated about that.
Where do you draw the line between
so
ma'am
I started,
and miss? Is that what
I just started calling everybody miss. An older woman does not mind being called, "Oh, miss, you dropped your purse." I don't know why it's always dropping money, but miss, you dropped your wallet. It seems to be more respectful.
Is
let's
a safer term to use. Yes,
Let me go real quick to the chat where it said, Adam Benner said, "Thank you for clarifying there, Amor Pizza." And Adam Benner says, "I think dignity and self-respect is enough to know what is appropriate to think, say, and behavior toward any human being, regardless of gender." Amor Pizza, agreed. Absolutely. I think that sums it up really well. This entire argument is a Hanlon's razor. Explain,
Never
bigger
attribute
hero.
to malice that which can adequately be explained by stupidity.
I did not know that had a name. I've heard that phrase a lot.
That, yeah.
Interesting. Thanks for that input. Let's see. You want to take a poll of the only female in the chat and what people should call us at the grocery store? Miss is best. I nailed it. I never even got input on that before. I just got facial feedback from calling young women ma'am and realized that wasn't good. Calling them miss, they seem to like that more. I've heard the phrase, but now I know what it's called. Yep. Hanlon's razor. Miss is best. Malice versus incompetence. Thank you.
Like do bop bop shoe bop do. That's Hanson.
I was like, where did you pull that from here? Good point, Emery. Yes, we need more female opinions. Hey, I do not. I am an equal opportunity advertiser. I invite all kinds of people on here. Just, I don't know. I feel discriminated against. No women watch my show. How does that make you feel?
Bad.
Bad.
Two girlfriends.
Like you are bad? Like your show is bad?
Oh, no. Just your half. My half's good.
All right. So just to sum it up, this was the point where I decided I was going to rant about this tonight. I was reading under my friend's post, and a lot of women whose opinions I respect and I'm kind of teetering on rethinking my opinions on a lot of these people. After a big long rant, this was the last paragraph that this woman posted about how. Oh, come on, why does it always go? Get those ugly lines everywhere. That's all right. I can deal with the ugly lines. She said, this is what guys should do. Here's after our wonderful solutions from Joe. If you're serious about finding a solution, the first step is to stop yourself whenever this issue comes up, especially when a woman is the one to bring it up, and say internally, I have not experienced this, and I don't know much about it, really. This person seems to know something about it. Let me close my mouth, open my ears, and see if I can learn something new. The very best gift you can give, especially to someone who has been hurt by this issue, is to listen without judgment. Listen and say, wow, that sounds horrible / scary / like it hurt you in a way I don't understand. Is there something I can do to make it better? And while on the surface, yes, that's how we should treat all people in all situations when having discussions with them. My only problem is the assumption, like I said earlier, it's not the same thing, but the assumption that when a woman brings it up, that a man should shut up, sit down, and think to himself, I have not experienced this, and I don't know much about it, really, when there's a possibility that a guy does. And that, ooh, what did I just uncover there? So, yeah, that my problem is it's not apples to apples, it's apples to oranges. And so the big broad swath in taking all of any problem any woman has with a man and putting it under the hashtag #MeToo. And then the big broad swath of saying, well, women deal with this and it's men's fault. I'm not saying this is everybody, the people who do this, and that men don't understand this at all and they need to shut up and sit down. That's where I have an issue, and I think it goes too far. And I think the best thing we can do, apart from the solutions that Joe was nice enough to share with us, is simply, I think, as Adam Benner just said, I think dignity, self-respect is enough to know what is appropriate to think, say, behavior toward any human being, regardless of gender. Let's just respect each other.
Absolutely.
I'll respect you. You respect me. We communicate properly. We don't mansplain over each other, and make a better world to live in. That's all I had to say on that topic.
Oh, that's all?
Anything else?
Just the last 50 minutes?
That's it?
You sure we have?
Well, we have 5 more minutes left, technically. We started 10 late.
You don't have a right to not be offended.
You have a right to not be offended. Someone said, my friend who posted this article, I facepalmed, double facepalmed.
Ex-friend.
He said, no, he's a friend. He's lost his way. He said, everybody has the right to be comfortable. I so strongly, vehemently disagree. People do not have the right to comfort. They have the right to seek comfort, and they don't have the right to other people forcing discomfort on them, but they do not have, if they are uncomfortable, it is not a violation of their human rights to be comfortable all the time. I think it's going a bit far. Everybody needs to be heard. Men need to be just as active in this conversation as women are. I agree. I have the problem of people, like saying, like, well, shut up, sit down. You don't have something to add to this. Some people don't say that. Some people do. That's where I have an issue when someone says, we will discuss this issue, us women, and you men need to sit there and have us tell you how to be better men. Anything else to add to that, Joe, before we move on to apparently?
No, that's,
I think he would have the softest touch, so ending on Joe's thoughts would be appropriate.
I think the dignity and respect thing, like that, I think that's what we're trying to get at here, is basic dignity and respect for other people. So Sorry to
And where's
just
that learned?
reiterate.
Sorry.
Where's that learned?
Where is that learned?
That's
Well, I mean, the first place would be in the home, but
That
hopefully
was-
on this show.
thank you.
Right.
I
Hey,
missed,
my
hey.
man.
Send your kids here first to learn about dignity and respect. No, that was another point I was going to make. A lot of women.
The last
no.
30 seconds.
Just gonna say, like, a lot of women say, like, we need to teach boys how to do this better, men. And I'm like, well, yeah, but like my respect for women was taught by my dad, but also like, you know, by my mom, who raised me and taught me a lot of what I know about relationship to women. Was my relationship to my mom. So men and women alike, we need to pay attention to how we are treating our children and raising them so that they actually grow up with that innate and they don't have to be reprogrammed when they go to college to not be misogynist rapists. So men and women, fathers and mothers, you make the next generation of either wonderful white knighting male feminists or, you know,
That's why in our next episode we're going to look at.
possible misogynist sexual assaultists.
That's why in our next episode we're going to talk about why it's so popular to not have any kids. Like, why is the trend for white people?
That was going to be the subject of conversation until Monday hit,
right.
and then this started, and it was had to
Right, but
had
I
to
mean,
get
so to that point that, you know, raising them plus raising them to have respect for
It's too
women,
much.
it's
That's
a lot
too
of
much.
work.
It's too much.
I just, yeah, well, not that I would know. On to sharks.
Let's see. Yeah, Adam Benner says, I think more men need to listen to women on how to be better men. And I'm just gonna say this. And
Agreed.
Take this
Definitely
take this
agreed.
however you want. Take this however you want. I discussed this, and I bother my wife way too much with stuff about like stuff like this, that she's not terribly like active in social commentary and things like this. But I bothered her for like an hour today, just like hammering this all out at her and being like, "Am I crazy? Like, seriously, tell me where in this I'm going wrong." Because like the woman in my life is my wife, and the way that I most directly am affected by and do affect this discussion is me to her and her to me. And so, you know, first I checked my privilege. I discussed it with the person who I connect most with this issue, and
Hope you did a whole lot of
she told me
discussing with
she
your
told me
ears.
I was crazy. She told me I was absolutely crazy, but I was just like, no, I'm not done. So let's see.
Healthy chortle.
Healthy chortle, I like that. Let's see. Yes, Eckert agrees. Yeah, when this episode will be memorable. You don't know what it's like to be a woman, while correct is just as correct as I'm not knowing what it's like to be a man. Yeah, it's been a I think forever eternal thing of that we don't understand what it's like to be each other, which is
We
why.
sucked. Adam Benner said we let the chat down.
What did we do? What?
We just defended men the whole time. Didn't have an open mind.
He didn't say
Just
that,
been
did he?
the normal. We serve really good.
That's not what he said.
His first sentence of that. Honestly, this whole session just felt like a defense of men rather than having an open mind on the issue.
Well, where are all the women? The whammon. No, I'm glad you said you felt that way. I disagree, but I'm glad you felt that way. My
Come back to the show,
mine was
please.
yes, absolutely. Mine was a counterpoint to the article that I read, which I think went a little too far the other direction.
We'll have you as a
Having been a
guest.
victim of sexual assault myself to a certain degree, that was my approach to it. So, just making sure that
You know what? Don't need defense
Men are-
from anything. Apparently,
Yeah.
sharks, volcano sharks. It's
Oh,
been on
this
the
is killing
screen.
me.
We're just
This is
teasing
killing
these
me.
people.
That's okay.
Thank you so much,
we'll
chat,
talk
for
about
keeping the
that.
conversation chatting.
We can talk about this next week.
No,
We got 60 seconds. Roll. What's with the sharks in the volcano?
it's not. It looks like a.
They're swimming around in one, and
in lava.
it's not lava.
So it's a caldera filled
Yes,
with water.
That is correct.
I
Yes.
knew the word.
Yeah, caldera is actually the term they use, and yeah, it's alive.
Oh,
it's not,
no.
They don't think it's supposed to be,
Ultrasound,
but
that's what I was
apparently
gonna say.
there are sharks with
Ultrasonic.
and
Whoa,
other
did the
creatures. There are other
hurricanes
creatures.
Make a sharknado and they landed in a volcano. That'd be cool.
Shark,
Shark-
NATO.
I don't know.
Sharkano.
I like it. Sharkano.
So, I was trying to roll the outro over that.
What? That's not even the word of the day, huh?
My computer, no.
Yeah, we got the word of the day.
The word of the day.
is
You're
no
shoving me off the show. You're like, we
the-
gotta get
the
out
word
of
of
here.
the
I
day-
gotta get out.
The word of the day
No,
on
bring it-
dictionary.com is no scent.
Nascent?
Nocent.
Nocent.
N-O-N-O
Like scentless.
C-E-N-T.
Senseless.
Nocent.
It has an archaic definition of guilty, which
We
is
should have
probably
Lacey
where the
Green
word
on.
innocent comes from.
I
To
would
Adam Penners.
love. I would
No
love
scent.
to have
I'm
Lacey
looking
Green
up
on.
Nocent. That's not-
Ex-Mormon, ex-feminist. She's not an ex-feminist.
Nocent guilty. Nocens. Nocent. All right. I dig it.
Who? What was the name?
Lacey Green. All right.
Lacey
There's two
Green,
words
she's very
of the day
popular.
because I missed one for one of my days. So the two
Let's hear
words of today are mercurial and capricious.
Mercurial and capricious. While you're bringing that up, I would love to have a feminist on the show. If you know one, let me know. I was trying. I couldn't find anybody last minute to come on and discuss this, but I
There you go.
was thinking about asking my wife, but
All right.
I
wouldn't
could
have-
probably find one.
Emma Watson too. All right. Mercurial
Emma
means
Watson.
volatile, erratic,
We'll have Emma Watson.
unstable, fickle, or changeable in temperament. And I don't care about the chemistry part. Capricious isn't a synonym for mercurial, and it means impulsive and unpredictable, determined by chance, impulse, or whim.
Nothing that we do is like that, right?
Oh no, I didn't say that.
I'm just
Hey,
kidding.
I'll burn your house down.
With the lemons.
awesome.
That's right. Most balanced.
Most balanced.
Balanced.
Yeah, if somebody has her number, text her. Text Emma Watson. See if you can get her on the show. That would be.
I don't know if her time is.
You know what though? I think she might be interested.
Maybe because she could send us like a recording or something. We could pretend to be talking to it.
They do make, and this is of course completely off topic. They do make a
Oh, that Lacey Green.
yeah. She's an ex-Mormon actually.
Really?
Yeah, it was interesting. She had a conversation with Tim Pool recently about the similarities of leaving Mormonism and being ostracized, and leaving feminism and being ostracized, and how they're both cults. They both acted so unfairly toward her. All right, that's our show for the day. I can't hear the outro, but the outro is rolling. Next week, we'll most likely talk about why you probably shouldn't have a kid, according to a couple on the internet. So we'll go over there. Some of
Oh,
that.
not just them. Everyone who's informed.
We might not. Yes, if you don't know, you probably shouldn't have a kid. So if we probably won't, it'll probably be something completely different. And if you have people you want to hear on the show, or if you want to be on the show, let me know. Tweet at me, and we'll see you guys next week. Hey, bam.
I could have seen that coming a mile away.